Let's listen in live here on BTN to the Commissioner of the Big Ten, Jim Delany.
Leaders in providing quality athletic and academic experiences for young people. Commissioner, welcome to the podium. We'll go ahead and take an opening statement, and then we'll do questions.
It's good to see everybody again. A lot has happened over the last 12 months. Nebraska came into the conference last fall. It's been a great fit, successful in every way, competitively, administratively, and culturally, just great fit. Everybody continues to do on a daily basis what we expect them to do. We've got 298 sports teams, over 9,500 student athletes. They go to class, they compete, they practice. We graduated a class, and we've got an incoming group. So this is an exciting time of the year from that perspective. Also last year, we had the inaugural championship game in Indianapolis. It was a great success, not only competitively and artistically, but we were really proud of what happened in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil Stadium, precursor to a great Super Bowl, and their community was really just terrific. I think that a disappointment, we had a highlight with an announcement on the collaboration with the Pac-12 on December 28th, and they informed us as a result of their 9-game schedule, they didn't really think that they could pull it together. We worked really hard. We've got great friendships and relationships out there, personified in the Rose Bowl game, but we weren't able to do that. That was disappointing. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in terms of the impact on the regular season schedule in a moment. But that was a little bit of a disappointment, but we've moved on beyond that. The other thing that we spent a lot of time this year on that's covered extensively was the establishment of a post BCS format, 4 teams inside the bowls, and we think it will actually energize the regular season even more than it has in the past. I think Roy Kramer deserves a lot of credit in establishing the BCS along with other conferences 15 years ago. Had a tremendous effect on the regular season, took a sport that was partly national, mostly regional, to take it mostly regional and partly national. So everybody watches everybody else now, and that was one of the great contributions to college football during my career, and I think we all ought to recognize what he did. I think the next step is a good step, and it's one that we initially were concerned about. We were concerned that it might end up outside the bowl system, might have a bad effect on the Rose Bowl. We were concerned that it might be placed in a situation where growth, we know that there's going to be people that are upset when their team is ranked 5th or 6th and they're not in. So we are really concerned about the slippery slope. But I think the way that it was structured, the agreement that came about among the conferences really speaks to the interest that everybody had in doing what was right for college football. I think our student athletes will benefit because there'll be double the opportunity to play for the brass ring. I think our fans will benefit because I think that there's going to be real emphasis placed on winning championships as well as strength of schedule. So I think that will encourage us to have stronger non-conference schedules. I think that's a good thing. And I also think at the end of the day, the Rose Bowl benefited because the Rose Bowl needs to evolve. It's obvious that there's a push towards a broadened postseason, but the Rose Bowl has been very important, not only to college football, but to this conference over many, many decades. And I think that the signing of the 12-year agreement with ESPN is a great statement about how relevant the Rose Bowl is. That time of the day, it's a global event. As I've said many times, one of probably the top 10 single-day sports properties in the world. I would say also we had a good year competitively, not only in football and in basketball, but we won 7 national championships in other sports, and shows the breadth of the conference and the national reach of the conference and a lot of other areas. So we've had continuing growth with BTN also. I'm sure you talked to Mark Silverman earlier, but we're proud of that. It's on a great trajectory. It's established both domestically and internationally, and is available in about over 80 million homes in over 25 countries, and I think Big Ten to go will be available this year pretty much any place in the world where high-speed internet exists. So that continues to be a good news story. I couldn't stand up here without addressing the Penn State case. I was available about 76 hours ago to 150 media after the NCAA announcements and the Big Ten announcements. On a personal and professional basis, it's probably one of the more difficult, if not the most difficult situation that I have faced every day from the time I saw the ESPN ticker in November of 2011. In one form or fashion, it's affected us. As a conference, we tried to be cautious about what we said and when we said it. We knew there would be a lot of fact-finding. Some of that fact-finding is yet to play out. There are criminal and civil suits. But I think that the free report, which has been accepted by the institution, adopted by the NCAA and the Big Ten as a result of Penn State's accepting that report, is a narrative which is based on a reasonable view of the evidence. There's still some who may debate it. But for purposes of moving forward, it is the record that's now been adopted by the institution. It's led to the NCAA sanctions. It's led to the Big Ten sanctions. And while I think it's still fresh in everybody's memory, it is a time that I think the institution and the team can begin to think about moving forward. What's clear to me, though, is that justice can never really be served in this case because the victims can never receive justice. And that's just the sad fact of the case. And while there are ancillary people who impacted the case in one way or another, affected the Big Ten, it's affected Penn State, obviously, it's affected a lot of people who are not involved in any way, shape, or form with the case. I think you have to just, you have to recognize that the 10 individuals and perhaps many, many more were damaged and hurt, and there's no amount of legal, criminal, civil, NCAA, Big Ten action that can change that or help them. And so, a lot of people want to debate about NCAA penalties or Big Ten penalties, and those debates are fine. But to me, they miss the point very much because they're not in any way related to what happened to the victims of Sandusky's actions. And in fact, they're aside from that point. I think they're difficult, challenging, and will inhibit competitiveness for a while. How long? I don't know. But they're definitely very strong penalties. But I have to tell you that the actions that President Erickson has taken from the time he took over, Dave Joyner from the time he took over, and Coach O'Brien from the time he took over, have been nothing but, I think, aggressive, right-minded, and I think all three have demonstrated terrific leadership. It's been dark in many, many ways, but sometimes it's darkest before the dawn. And I think that there are other chapters to play out, but I think in many ways part of this has played out, and at least part of it, in part, it's time to move on with respect to discussion on NCAA and Big Ten penalties. I took questions from 150 writers about this yesterday, and I'm happy to do that again today. A lot of people worry and wonder about whether or not what the NCAA did is a precedent. I don't really care if it's a precedent. I don't really care about whether or not they had jurisdiction or whether or not there was an underlying NCAA violation. There's been a lot of debate by pundits one way or the other. The only thing that matters to me is that I think the NCAA did have moral authority to act. And I think the Big Ten had moral authority to act. The relationship between Penn State and the NCAA is a little bit different. It's more of a corporate relationship. But clearly what happened at Penn State, that was outlined in the free report, challenges any organization to step up and do what's right. And I think because the free report had been accepted by the institution, it allowed for the NCAA to take the next steps it thought were appropriate. You can debate them all you want, but in my view, they had moral authority and responsibility to act, as did the Big Ten. And so, like I say, it was from a professional and personal perspective, a challenging period. And let me stop there and take whatever questions you may have on sports issues of the day or on other issues. Thank you.